Serious, people who ghosted their best friend. Why? He spiraled out of control with alcohol for a while and he's an angry drunk, so I blocked him for a month. He was an asshole to everyone during that time. So it became apparent to him that he can't get drunk anymore. Now everything's better. Unhealthy relationship. We would always do what she wanted and whatever I wanted was put on the back burner. Started from primary school and ended slightly after high school, where I realized that I was worth more. She never cared about me or my feelings. I literally just walked away from her after she once again changed my plans to suit her and never spoke to her again. She never even tried to find out what was wrong. Some friend. My best friend of 12 years destroyed my computer because he found out on Facebook that his girlfriend was cheating on him while he was using it. I kicked him out of my house and told him he was only welcome back if he paid me for the damage he caused. It's been over a decade and he still hasn't paid. As a result, I haven't talked to him since. Her boyfriend started spreading rumors that I slept with him after I turned him down over Snapchat. Messages deleted those, so no proof. Apparently he told the whole school and she confronted me after a week. I told her that if she believed her boyfriend of 9 days over her friend of 7 years, that I don't want to be around her. She texted me last year. Told me he admitted everything to her when they broke up, 3 months after the rumor. I never responded. They bought into Amway and every conversation we had afterwards was them trying to convince me to buy into it. Because everyone and everything around her was toxic according to her. I couldn't say anything positive about almost anything or anyone without her getting defensive and telling me how toxic they were. Myself and another mutual friend slowly realized that she took anyone not agreeing with her or wanting to be her best friend as them hating her, and it just got to the point where hanging out with her left us on the defensive the entire time. We both slowly ghosted because we are all in the same grad program and social group and knew if we actually said anything to her she'd make it into a huge drama and possibly affect our other friendships. Slowly ghosting over time made it seem like we were naturally just fading away and has made the end of our friendship a lot less drama filled. He got really lewd and wouldn't stop even after I told him it made me uncomfortable. I don't know. In some cases I've been ghosted. Maybe I ghosted a few people. It seems like it is just something that happens as you grow older. Get married. Have kids. Stress about work. Stress about bills. Blah. 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 I'll admit that having little interaction with people makes life a bit easier for me. I will also admit in one case that I had a terrible crush on my friend and my attachment was inappropriate and unhealthy. She ended up getting married and I did not attend the festivities. That ended it. She was an online friend on another continent. I had a bad mental breakdown and deleted all of my social media and accounts on all websites and apps. Haven't had the courage to contact her since. I just hope she isn't worrying about me. Stroke. She never called me. I always had to call her and make the plans. So one day I just decided to not call her and see how long it will take for her to miss me. I'm still waiting. I used to be best friends with this girl who used to lie a lot. She would lie about innocuous things like how much money she made, etc. It was obvious that she was lying, but I went along with it because I figured that she was insecure and that it made her feel better, I guess. Eventually, it got to a point where she started lying about things in order to make me feel shitty. For example, I am registered with accessibility services at school for my mental health issues. I was granted extra time on tests, etc. She told me that the fact I am registered with accessibility services would appear on my transcript and that I wouldn't get a job. That is 100% a lie. That is not true at all. At first, I didn't understand why she would lie about stuff like that. Then it dawned on me that she was trying to sabotage my self-esteem so that she would be more successful than me. I have a mental illness. It's not a joke. It's not funny. It's a severely debilitating thing to live with. I ghosted her after that. Sometimes I feel shitty about it, but I got a real bad feeling about her. I ghosted him because the drug usage got too intense. No, friend's name. I don't want to do benzo or heroin. Dot. 2 weeks later, my friend calls me because he is so f-ked he can't untie his shoes. 2 later, same friend and another asks me to come hang out with them. Said no because work. Not that into drugs. Going to work. Next day another friend is dead of heroin dose. Will always blame myself. First friend still tries to keep contact. He had a dog for about 2-3 years and wanted to get rid of it because its submissive peed on his leather couch and was okay with just taking it to the pound where it could have been euthanized. He also made it seem like it was my problem if I didn't help him rehome it. I felt it was a completely heartless thing to do since it was a minor training issue, and even though my friend was a dick, the dog loved him and was his whole world. I stopped talking to him completely and handed him his spare key I had to help with said dog. Apparently it took me doing all that for him to realize what a shitty bag he was and decided to keep the dog. He still has him to this day. I helped with training the dog, but haven't had much contact with the friend since. He was a 24-year-old dating a 16-year-old. Well, technically legal. Is just wrong. He was also being very manipulative and protective towards her. I did eventually talk to him about my issues with it, and he told me. I just didn't understand it. And then I said I couldn't be his friend. For reference, this is the second time he's dated a teenager in his 20s. And by manipulative, he wanted her to move in with him and to work under his supervision at Tim Hortons, a coffee shop in Canada. And he would have his co-worker spy on her if she said something they didn't like. And X200B. She did eventually break up with him, and he blames that happening on me, which I'm fine with. He had a crush on me but refused to let it go. I openly talked about my crush with him, but he would still be in my face about it. I told him while I was drunk that I was flattered by him liking me, but I wasn't ever going to like him like that, and I appreciated his companionship more than anything. He still kept going. And X200B. It got to a point where we were out and I heard him talking to someone right next to me, explaining how once I got over this silly little crush of mine, I would realize that he was there the whole time and I'll fall in love with him. Even worse was the dumbest girls he was talking to that were encouraging him. And X200B. I got over my crush and started talking to this new guy, my current boyfriend of 2 years now. My friend and I were out to dinner. Everything was going great, and then I told him about the guy I was talking to. His face immediately fell flat and his mood soured. I couldn't get him back to his regular self for the rest of the night and he ended up leaving early. And X200B. Never message replied to him again after that. I was used to him constantly pursuing me, but that bitter side of him that came out that night ruined the friendship. She f-ked my older brother, bragged about it to mutual friends, and lied about it to my face. Then dated him for a bit 3 weeks following me ghosting her. I finally woke up to the fact that she was insanely toxic. Not only to herself, but to everyone around her. We had been friends for 10 years since high school. And over the years the quality of our dynamic deteriorated drastically. My feelings were always put on the back burner. At times it was apparent she viewed herself in competition with me. And she treated her boyfriend turned husband, also one of my best friends, like shit. When they got married she called off the friendship unexpectedly because her church suggested I would be a bad influence as I was single and visiting the county bar once a week to line dance. In reality I'm of firm belief she just didn't want to risk going out because she couldn't control herself. Fast forward a couple years and we reconciled, only to find out that she had been having affairs left and right behind her husband's back. The final straw, however, was the night I introduced my husband to them both. And during the double date she had the audacity to flirt with my husband in front of us. I refused to associate with someone of non-existent morals and haven't looked back since. I just got busy with life. Had a kid and job and all that. I've since tried to get in touch via social media, but much to my chagrin, I've yet to get a response. I couldn't handle it anymore. I realized he was using me to feel better about himself and to pass some time and as support for exams. But if I needed help or support he wasn't there. He didn't care. He was really selfish. He was throwing a party and I called to tell him that I can't come because my mom fell and ended up at the emergency room. And he knew that she is sick. And he just answered okay. I don't really care, I gotta go bye. That's the moment I realized he is not my friend. Telling him something just goes in one ear and out the other. It was exhausting being his friend. If I see him, I'll say hi and chat for a bit, but I don't answer calls anymore and don't hang out with him. One of my best friends. She phoned me 2 days after my partner died out of her mind on drugs, asking if I would have a threesome with her and her boyfriend. Not said a word to her since I hung up that call. I was kind of a jerk to him. Note that I am a girl. I'm just a naturally rough person. I'm friendly aggressive, if you get what I mean. I really liked him. And he was super tolerant of me and my stupid actions. But as I got older I realized that what I was doing was wrong and I don't deserve a friend like him. So after a small while I stopped talking to him. When I walk by him I still can't look him in the eyes. I was a jerk and I've always wanted to talk to him again, but I don't have the guts to do it. So in the end I just cowardly try to avoid him. Not as good as the other stories. But still something. They weren't my best friend but they thought they were mine. I grew up. They didn't. She fell in love with me. Started being very clingy and acting sorta obnoxious, and along with that, one of my friends at the time was into her. Which didn't help anything. As well as I wasn't interested in the first place. I didn't feel comfortable being around her. I could have handled it better though. Best friend of 5 years, she turned behind my back. Told the whole school about how lame awful I was. She knew I was vulnerable and insecure because I opened up to her because I thought she wanted to help me. I didn't know she was sharing that information with everyone else and using it as leverage to gain social status. She somehow still managed to make everyone, including the teachers, think she was a goody two shoes and I was the only one who knew what she was doing. But nobody would take me seriously. When I ghosted her she acted all hurt and sad and everybody felt sorry for her. I look like an asshole. But that's why I don't judge people now. I eventually found real friends, but I still have a hard time trusting people to open up to them. We'd been very close in school and had a ton of common interests. But that faded significantly over time. It got to a point where we'd only hang out 2-3x a year when she'd fly back to visit family in my area. We'd literally go from zero contact to her calling me 20-30x a day. Demanding that I call off work to hang out with her because she was depressed. Then she'd fly home and I wouldn't hear from her again for months. When we did visit she only wanted to talk about herself. Never asked about my life, work, husband, family. She'd criticize everything and everyone around us, including me. I ended up picking up the tab for almost every meal because she never offered to, or she'd say she would pay me back later and then forget. Once she asked to use my hair straightener and when I said I didn't own one she refused to speak to me for a couple hours. She was like 25 at the time, BTW. There's a lot more that ended up being the tipping point, but it's kinda specific so I'll end it there. So my roommate freshman year of college and I became extremely close. And we hung out almost every day, going to class, gym, study, whatever. He was a massive flirt. And regarded himself as a player, yet was more in it for the hook up and then not text back. He was a nice guy. Never did things maliciously. That was just how he rolled. Cut to sophomore year and he starts seeing this girl and all of a sudden went under the radar for a while, not really letting our circle of friends or even myself in on what was up. This was pretty out of character, so I knew he had found someone he genuinely liked and was trying to get serious with. He introduces her to me and she is just an amazing person. I was so happy for them. They were such a good match and had so many things in common, both interest-wise and personality-wise. Cut to my junior year and he joins the Army Reserve and has to leave school for a semester to go to boot camp. He leaves and his girlfriend and I basically became best friends. Commuting to class. Moving into the same apartment complex. Working out. We were nigh inseparable. Don't get me wrong. She was gorgeous and I had a mad crush, but I respected their relationship enough to be the dutiful third wing. For his graduation from boot camp, his GF and I planned out a whole road trip to head out there and celebrate with him before he had to continue on to tech school for his MOS. They had been infrequently talking during the months of his basic, but basically it was my friend worrying about whether he wanted to be in a relationship with his GF or not. Mid-basic he sent her a promise ring pseudo engagement ring. He finally gets back to university and starts his classes back up and they are better than ever. I had at this point bonded with each of them independently, so I am in heaven hanging out with my two best friends who are also not engaged. His GF graduates and starts working at a company. Her father is pretty high up the food chain of company. A pretty upscale company at the opposite end of the city we were all living in. Cut to my senior year and they are having issues with the lack of face time they are able to spend together. Basically only seeing each other on weekends. I still hang out with my buddy and talk to the GF. But I really am out of the loop as far as their relationship. I really didn't want to intrude more than I already had in their lives. Well, one day she calls me absolutely devastated and tell me that my buddy, my closest friend, has been seeing another girl at school and is questioning whether he still wants to be engaged with his GF, now fiance. He confesses that he's been cheating for the past month or two and doesn't regret it, and instead asks his fiancée if she could just give him a few weeks for him to make up his mind whether he wants to cut things off with her or not. I confront him about it and yep, it's legit. This all happened the exact way she described. So, in my mind this made me have to make an excruciating call to choose which close and dear friend I want to lose. And I chose my roommate. I know it was probably a hasty and selfish thing to do, but I stopped talking to him and completely ghosted him out of my life. He tried to reach out a few times but I was persistent. Honestly, I don't regret it. I couldn't stand to be friends with someone who so brazenly and cruelly hurt another close and dear friend of mine. And I still talk to her to this day. She is amazing and still climbing her way towards fame and fortune. I will treasure her friendship always. And X200B. TLDR. Roommate gives up poon hounding for a GF. Everything is great. Until 3 years later decides cheating with a fling makes him want to reevaluate having his GF. Causes me to lose respect for him and ghost him completely. Oh boy, here comes a Lil Wong story. TLDR all the way down. Don't know how to mark spoilers on mobile. Also have to split us up because it's too long. Preface. We were best friends since high school. Inseparable. We traveled together. Through Germany, England and France. Even spent the summer trekking through the remote Swedish wilderness completely on our own with only what we had in our backpacks. Had even some kind of shared apartment during the first years of college and he helped me get through a rough breakup. He always had some kind of insecurity and trust issues and only felt comfortable around me because we knew each other since back in high school. We're in our early 20s now and this shitty happened a few months ago. Keep that in mind. But with people he doesn't know he literally assumes they are flat out evil and he generally always first assumes bad intentions until proven otherwise. In his late teens to early 20s. Those issues got worse and worse but around me. He was always a really chill and awesome guy. We could talk about everything for hours on end, but as soon as other people were around he became so insecure about himself that he literally tried to dominate everyone by being passive aggressive up to blatantly threatening people in the worst case. He had shown some anger management problems a few years back already. But the situation reached its peak late 2019. On my birthday party. He decided that everyone mocked him because he was passive aggressive to my friends for no reason and told them to follow his rules. Again. On my birthday party. In my apartment. He told everyone to follow his rules. I just got to know a cute girl a few weeks prior. She was also there. Even baked a cake for me and we just had some really good chemistry going on. So we sat together and talked a lot that evening but nothing more. No making out or other PDA. My friend was not amused by that. Because in his eyes I was the only non-evil person that was there, but I left him alone and talked to that girl instead of him. So he decided it was my way of one-upping him because he was single and couldn't talk to girls if his life depended on it. What does he do then? You may wonder. He f-king threatens me. He threatens to call the cops because some people, I assume, didn't witness it myself, talked about weed. We didn't smoke anything. Just some people talked about smoking, I guess. There were no drugs on that party. We even barely drank alcohol. It was just extremely chill and everyone got along perfectly. But this guy f-king threatened to call the cops. I politely and in private told him to leave before anything escalates. And I made sure nobody noticed that I told him. He was okay with it and said he'll drive home without any protest. He didn't drink anything. So he was perfectly able to drive. The party resumed as before. He told everyone he has to go because he needs to get up early for work the next day and left without a scene. But the next day I wake up a message longer than this post of him outlining what he will should he ever witness anyone talking about anything illegal again and that he thinks the girl I talked to is a WH Ray etc. He literally wrote a few paragraphs about every single guest of my party and why this person is an asshole and what he'll do to them. I left him on read without a response for 3 months until around Christmas time, when I got a message from him again, innocently asking how I'm and my family are doing etc. Left him on read again and wanted to block him. But before that he added the question actually. Why did you stop talking to me? Dot. My answer? I forwarded the aforementioned long message back to him. Nothing else. He told me we should just forget that. Because he has learned his lesson and even got his first GF now and he wants to introduce us. I was baffled that someone who couldn't even look a girl in the eyes before now has a GF. And honestly I was a little too curious so I said it's okay. Suppose something must really have happened with him in the last 3 months. I was still hesitant to really talk to him. And because of work college time constraints we could only meet in person on Christmas Eve. After I had dinner with my family. He came to my place and brought his GF. An average girl. But 4 years younger than him and clearly a little insecure. But still very open. Complete opposite of him. We talked about Christmas. How he met his GF etc. But no word about the party incident. His GF spotted an old Arabic tabletop tobacco pipe in my glass cabinet and asked if it actually works or if it's just decoration. I said it's real. And that we can try to use it if she wants to. I also had an old tin of pipe tobacco next to it. But I don't smoke myself. It's actually mostly for decoration really. I put it up on my table and lit some coal cubes to put on top of it. We, his GF and I. He didn't because tobacco is evil. Smoked a little bit and coughed a lot. But it was still fun. He felt left out and started trying to touch his girl inappropriately all the time while we were sitting on my couch. It was just so awkward. We both told him to please do that only when they're alone but he didn't stop and moved so strangely that he knocked the pipe over. Burning coal fell onto my wooden table and wooden floor and burnt holes into it. I was really mad and felt like I could really just punch him in the face but didn't want to start a scene. Actually only because it was Christmas and I also didn't want to leave a bad impression with his girl who I saw for the first time that day. So I just told them I'll take care of it the next day and it's already late so I'll go to bed now. They left and I tried to repair the burn holes in my floor at 2 AM on Christmas. You can imagine I was pissed as fuck. Pretty sure it was a mutual ghosting. I think we both realized that we were very different from how we were when we first met, add in some other factors. And despite me sometimes missing her all the good memories, I think it was for the best. For the other, I got tired of being cancelled on. I tried to make plans continuously for a year and every single time we were supposed to meet up, she would be busy. I can understand that shit happens sometimes but she would be the one to choose the time and dates and would still cancel. Needless to say, I got tired of my feelings being hurt and wondering if she was actually busy or just saying that. I told my former lifelong best friend I couldn't be friends with him anymore. I wanted to get my life together. Grow up and own a house. Get married. I still check on him from time to time. He's 33. Still an alcoholic. Living with his parents. I'm 33. About to get married and own my home. Thought he was a ride or die homie. When it came to the crunch, turned out he's a rat. He had been bringing me down so much. He even said to me in a passive aggressive way that he didn't give a FCK about my mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and he allowed his friends to belittle me while he sat and watched. When I brought this to his attention, he pretended he cared. And it was honestly convincing. Next thing I know is that we're yelling at each other and he tells me to shut the FCK up. And that he wishes he'd never met me. About a week ago, we got into another fight because he decided to date my sister. I'm not mad at her because she doesn't know all of the shit he did to me, and I deleted his number and archived our conversation. She wasn't my best friend. In fact, she couldn't even call me a friend even though I did. I'll explain. So basically, I met this girl in my history class because she thought I was a good artist. So I was being nicer than I usually am and drew her some things. I think that's why she even talked to me in the first place. To get free art. So she ends up moving to my pay class and we talked a lot there. She liked to explain to me in full detail every single f***ing day about how she was sexist towards females. I am one BTW. So yay. She said shitty like all girls are the same and they're annoying and just cause drama and stuff along the lines of that. Whatever. I guess. That's not what really set me off though. She told me to my face that if I had a dick, she'd consider me a friend. A good one. At that. She just couldn't get over the face that I wasn't a male. Yet she continued to talk to me. I was just so confused and pissed off I just stopped talking to her. He became a severe alcoholic and progressed to the pathological liar stage. He wouldn't get help. Because when I told her I was bisexual, and then that I lost my virginity, she said she loved me but didn't agree with my choices. I felt judged and like she would never accept me. And I was moving away, so it was easy to just lose touch. Haven't ghosted yet. But I plan to once I am financially independent. I knew her when I was 16, she was 18. She constantly pressured me into sex even when she knew it was extremely painful and that I was only into men. Then told me I was abusive for not being attracted to her. She suggested I get conversion therapy and constantly has friends over who call me a pedophile for my sexuality. She goes along with them. She lies constantly just to seem smarter. If she does anything wrong, she claims she has never done any such thing despite multiple witnesses. She knows my parents physically and sexually abused me throughout my childhood. And still jokes about beating me constantly and hits me and gropes me all the time. She always belittles my pain and yells at my husband for being useless. Double quote. I won't regret ghosting her. Only meeting her. She just stopped maturing and acted like she did when we were in grade school. She was also conceited and talked about herself constantly. And to make matters worse, her stories were always extremely boring and very long. I stayed friends with her for 14 years until I decided I had enough after we graduated high school. I loved her. Maybe too much. Maybe too little. I still don't know the answer to that question. We were friends for a long time since school days. She went overseas and we kept in touch. I caught feelings somewhere along the line. Confessed. But she said we should just be friends. She was also dating someone else at the time. We kept on being friends. We shared memes. Talked for hours on end. Talked about our hopes, dreams and goals. She comforted me when I was down and I always comforted her through her breakups and rough moments in life. I drunk texted her on many occasions and told her how much she meant to me. She said I was one of the very few people who really knew her. But through it all there were times we still fought with each other. Said hurtful things, but we always forgave each other and moved on. She came down last December. We went on a trip, got drunk. Had a ball of a time. After the trip the arguments continued. I blocked her. Then I unblocked her again, but she had deleted my number, and once I reached out her tone was different. I knew there would be no going back this time. I decided it's best to move on and not respond anymore to any of her messages. It may not exactly be ghosting. More like a mutually agreed yet unspoken end to our friendship. I saw this question and needed to let it out. I still wonder which one of us was more to blame. We were both there for each other in dark times. but also hurt each other with our words. I miss the texts, the drunk yet deep conversations, but most of all I miss the way she gave me hope and how my face lit up when she messaged me, or the excitement and anticipation I always had before meeting her. I also remember the pain I felt whenever she was upset. I really loved that girl, but maybe it was an unhealthy obsession. I finally decided it's time to let go. TLDR, caught feelings. Tried to stay friends but it didn't work out. Friends for over 10 years. I ended up becoming his boss at restaurant. Being best friends, I would do all the work needed to be done and set his shift up so he had almost nothing to do except be a warm body. That wasn't enough for him. He had to clean one deep fryer in an 8-hour period. That was his only task. And he decides throw a fit about having to work. While at work, I ghosted his lazy ass. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, definitely. Better off losing dead weight like that. Began to realize that they only needed my company when they didn't have a boyfriend, and every time I was around them it seemed to cost me an awful lot of money. But cost them pretty much nothing. Those women that can't live without a man. Definitely not the best type of friend for me. I'm not going to be your filler. She was a raging alcoholic who would only think of herself. Wrecked multiple cars but got off scotch-free because her dad is an ex-state trooper. Anytime we mentioned to her that she should get help, she said, "I don't need help. I'm perfectly fine." Double quote. You can only help people so much. I'm not going to expose myself to that type of an environment that I do not want to be in. I had a childhood best friend that ghosted me. I'm talking best friend. Met in 4th grade. Lived in the same building. Walked to school every day from 4th to 8th grade. Went to the same high school and shared a locker for 4 years. Did everything together that teenage boys do. Except he was not into girls. I don't know if he was asexual or in the closet or what. It wasn't a big deal. Never paid attention to it, tbh. I started dating girls and he didn't. I had my first kiss at 12. He was in the room. We went to the same college, but by that time we had grown apart a little. From calling each other 3-4 times per day to 2-3 times per week. We still hung out relatively often, and then we kinda went like a month without seeing each other, and I called his house and his mom said he couldn't come to the phone. No big deal. And then again. Then a few days later again. Again. WTF. Then about 3 months later I bumped into him at our school and he straight up backed away from me. Haven't seen or heard from him since. I looked him up and he moved after I moved, and we live 15 minutes from each other now. I made an attempt to contact him, it's been like 15 years, through some email address that I found, cause honestly I feel like I need closure, but he never responded. It kept me up, tbh, cause I'm an only child and he was my brother. The guy turned into a 28-year-old alcoholic furry and didn't want to admit he had a problem. Tried to stick it out with him for a bit to help him, but after going to his friend's house with him a few times, stuff kept getting weird when people would come over. Was like a MTV episode, so I split. He went schizo and called the police on me for butt-fucking him in his sleep. I did not. Nor did any of the other dozens of people he had called the cops on. But fuck him in his sleep. He groped a mutual friend. Confronting him about it wasn't what she wanted. But I couldn't look him in the eye knowing what he'd done. So I disengaged. Honestly, we more or less had grown apart as we got older. Naturally, communication was substantially less, like once in a few months. Then I got a good job in hospital and graduated. Pretty much then, all forms of communication became him wanting something from me, whether it be getting him a job at the hospital, money, information about his newly prescribed medications, etc. That was it for me. Like, dude, I could do without the fake "how are you" text in order to segue to you asking me for something. I lost interest. Yeah. I don't know why, but peeps are boring. For a while it works, but it doesn't take long until it feels like a chore to keep up a friendship. So that's how I ghost friends. Doesn't mean I don't like company. Sometimes I even want it desperately. But it doesn't take too long until I just lose interest and be for myself for weeks on end. Mine was my college roommate. I was an out-of-state kid, so I didn't have that many friends, but she was my best friend at college. I lived with her in an apartment, but it was 2 doubles with a tiny kitchen living room area. The first semester went fine, besides one of the other roommates being a pain. But my friend was fine for the most part, besides little things here and there. We get the girl who was causing trouble to move out at the end of the first semester. We think everything is going to be fine. We find a new roommate that we all liked and we were good. Second semester rolls around. New roommate moves in. And my friend was kinda being snippy, but I think it was due to her and the new girl having clashing personalities because they were both dom personalities. Then my friend starts losing it. Creating issues. Not cleaning. Goes off her meds, she has depression and anxiety, and starts drinking heavily every night and talking about suicide a lot. Apparently she has a therapist she goes to see, but from what I got, she's not telling her therapist the truth about how bad she is. She starts skipping classes. Doesn't really leave the room, and it's creating a huge toll on me. Like to the point of I wasn't sleeping or eating. And I was staying up at night to make sure she didn't do anything, and I literally started going insane, and she would essentially mentally abuse me. There was other stuff happening that I won't put here. But I eventually had it about halfway through the semester. Move out and it's fine. We end up going out for my birthday, and she was invited with some of my other friends and roommates, and we spent the entire night with her and the new roommate taking shots and bashing each other pretty much the entire dinner, and I had enough. I ended up cutting contact for about a week with everyone except one roommate. Just so she would know I was okay. And when my friend wouldn't leave me alone, calling and texting, but that was because I owed her back for a time she bought me food, and she was trying to force me to pay it back when I had already told her I would take her out for food the next week, and she got upset that I was ignoring her, so I'll let her have it. I didn't say as much as I wanted to, but I was also worried she would relapse. It broke my heart to do it, but at that point I was so mentally worn down I couldn't take it anymore that I had to cut her off, and later realized all the red flags that had been happening, that it was a nightmare. I'm still recovering from all the crap she put me through a year later. As are my other roommates, who didn't catch as much as I did, but they still caught a fair amount, and I would tell them what was going on.